Okay, let me call the meeting of the Cemetery Commission to order for Wednesday, October 12th. I declare we have a quorum present. Great. First item of business, any commissioner comments? Seeing no public comment.
Check the participants.
Trying to, but it won't let me click. There you go. It's a little slow.
Ken, I'll let Ken in.
Absolutely.
Computers.
Neil's wife, Joanne, would always ask me to come
If you just click on waiting room, and
Yeah,
it
that's
should
right.
say admit.
I'm clicking on it, but it's like a delay. I don't know what.
in.
There you go.
All right, there we go.
Clears the glitch, whatever.
Yeah. See, I clicked on it. I
So yeah, so
guess
we'll have to reset the end. When I shut this down, I'll shut the whole thing down. And
Okay.
then tomorrow, which I remember we started.
Yeah, me too, yeah.
It's such a-
Oh, really? Yeah.
Do we have?
He's joining.
Oh, he's in. Ken, are you?
Not
here?
yet, he's joining.
It's slow.
This computer
It's a
takes a
little
minute.
slow.
Has to think about it. Grease the wheels.
We can start.
Yeah, so any commissioner comments before we, item number 1 on the agenda? Seeing none, no public comment. Approval of minutes from our September 14th meeting. Those minutes were circulated. And I would entertain a motion to.
Second.
Barbara.
Aye.
Fran. Lee.
Aye.
And chair votes aye.
I would suggest, Alan, we also have minutes from October the 7th.
Oh, correct, thank you. We also have minutes from our meeting last Friday. Any errors, omissions, anything like that? Motion to approve. Okay, Fran, second. Great. All in favor, again, roll call, Scotty, Barbara.
Aye.
Aye, and chair votes aye. Great.
So I have to admit,
The survey that is necessary, there you are, he agreed to do the survey that is necessary in order to be able to determine where we are relative to the additional plots to be created. He just got back to me last week saying that he is not willing or not going to do the surveys. I've spoken to Leo Asadorian, and Leo has agreed to help me find either he himself or find someone else to be able to do the survey, so we can move forward with respect to the next steps in terms of the arrangement with the neighbors. I apologize that this is not good news, but I mean, it's very frustrating. I mean, I thought we had an arrangement. We did. He walked through and decided that he was not willing to do it. So we're back to square one in terms of getting the survey. Questions?
no, he's muted everybody. Ken, were you speaking to us in the
Can
cemetery?
everybody hear me?
We did.
Can you hear us, Ken?
Oh, technology.
Did everyone hear what I said?
Parks.
Can you hear us, Ken?
I can barely hear you.
We can hear you clearly.
Is
We
is there a
didn't-
microphone that you can speak
what he
into?
said.
Can we type him a note? Here, can you type him a note? Okay.
Well, we could keep.
Can you do thumbs up if you heard what I said?
We did not.
Thumbs down.
Hmm.
Because he wasn't lower down. We can hear him now.
You see what that says, Mike, again?
Okay, sorry, okay, here, what I meant to say, what I said at the beginning is that about 6 to 8 weeks ago, I had gotten in touch with Joe Marklinger, and he agreed to do a survey for us with respect to the property. Last week, he got back to me and said he is no longer willing or able to do the survey. I have then gotten in touch with Leo Asadorian. Leo has agreed to help me find a surveyor, he himself, or he will help me find a surveyor to do what we need in order to be able to define the space that we need to get and define it legally from the neighbors, and then what space we give to the neighbors as a part of the swap transaction. Did that come through clearly?
Yes,
Okay, all right. I apologize, it's bad news, but the fact is that it is what it is. So I will stay on top of it and meet. I have a meeting scheduled with Leo next week, so I'll keep you apprised.
Okay, thank you.
If okay, may I be excused from the meeting, the rest of the meeting? Okay. Thanks, team.
Low tech stuff.
It is.
so I'm not quite sure what.
So we can't get the survey.
Yeah,
Marklinger, can't do it, won't do it.
Yeah.
Ken has talked to Leo Asadorian, and you'll help me spell his name, whom he's been working with you for decades, I think.
right.
And Leo says he's gonna try and find somebody. If he can't, he might do it himself. Is that a,
Yeah, okay, no, that's fine.
It's,
I,
we sort of decided, I felt like recently, that we're not even gonna bother with the
Yeah,
swap,
exactly,
so maybe we
that-
shouldn't even go
that's-
forward.
yeah, that.
But it wasn't solely the swap though, it was also to
The
lay
laying
out
out
the
the-
new lot.
right.
The way.
Yeah. No,
You're
I-
right.
okay, we're out of order here, but we should
Okay,
continue to pursue the swap. It just is beneficial to the town and of course to the Hicks.
I'm not so sure. I disagree. I mean, because we'll have to pay for that survey, whatever, and if we're not gonna use it, I mean, I'm still upset about the fact that we were charged 30, I forget, whatever for the survey. Remember, we had a bill last month and there was the $43,000 from Richard Grubb Associates, which responded, we signed off on that one, but then there was an additional $30,000 or $32,000 for a survey supposedly of all 7 cemeteries. And we have no idea. Apparently our account has been charged for that amount, and we've never received any sort of.
Who did it?
Alan, I'm gonna have trouble following this in the minutes.
I think we need to stick to the Pulpus Cemetery because we started with Ken. So I
Okay,
think we should move to change the agenda so that we do that first. Because Ken popped in and that we're on that. So I think, can I move, if that needs to be done, that we move to Pulpus Cemetery,
Okay,
number 5.
so the supplies needed, well.
Well, no,
how about-
5 is discussion of the field trip. Which is really what we're discussing, I think.
Is that correct?
yeah,
And lay out
Oh,
additional
I
lots.
have them on. Okay, how
I
could I do that?
mean, I feel like, Lee, I'm not sure it's beneficial to us now. And I was kind of convinced last week when we were out there walking it, when Alan said that part of the area that we were thinking of swapping was that back corner to the left, if you're looking at the cemetery.
Right.
And I felt like Alan at least implied
Mhm.
that that wasn't such a usable spot. And then when we looked at what we have now, it seems like everything we have is pretty usable. So I feel like this has dragged on so long. I'm also not convinced. I would not have said that 3 months ago, but I feel like, it dragged on a long time and,
And we've never been shown a map of what they're proposing.
right.
Right, yeah, we've never seen a map or whatever they're proposing and so on, so, all right, as far as, Hopeless Cemetery, then we'll move on to number 5.
But we still have to do, we still
I
have
don't
to,
know how I did that.
we still have to, we still have to have a surveyor plan the layout of the.
Exactly, okay,
Regardless, we have, even if we just limit it to.
so,
Alan, please. To Barbara's point, what had been discussed in terms of the swap was potentially a recordable survey, which is gonna be a lot more expensive than an informal survey just to find the corners. And remember the last time we did it, they did it with a GPS pole.
yeah,
They did it for free because it wasn't that difficult and it wasn't that expensive.
right,
So I just want to make sure that people understand there's a distinct survey necessary for recording versus layout. And, I'm perfectly happy with doing the layout. But I don't want people thinking that's going to be a $40,000 or $50,000 expenditure.
correct, yeah, and that's the thing we need to avoid is, a big bill for doing that. Okay, so on, from our, field trip on Friday, what we did.
While you're looking, Alan, I will return to my rather facetious statement that a good surveyor always starts the notes, either his notes or her notes, with a summary of the weather, because that helps people to understand the conditions in which the survey was taken. And so I left out the fact it was a beautiful day.
Great,
But Lee, you still want to do the swap. I mean, I think that's really more.
Yeah, I do.
to the topic.
I do. But if we agree that we're not, I will suggest at the appropriate time, here's a preview of coming attractions, that we make a formal recommendation to Ken to pursue the encroachment.
right, okay.
We're not there yet, but that's what I would suggest.
Okay, so, in terms of the land swap, okay, with the Hicks, are we in agreement that, we don't need to put any more time, effort, money into that? We can call Ken and say, Ken, cross it off your list.
In my opinion, I think we are. Yeah, I think we spend a lot of time on this, and time's caught up to us, and we need more solutions.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I'm going to use an Old Navy term. I think we should just put it in mothballs. Not absolutely stop, but spend no more time.
Okay, is that? a
But we do
motion?
have to,
Yeah,
we would
we do
communicate.
have to communicate that.
I want to go on the
Oh, yeah,
minutes
no,
for one
that's-
thing.
That would be the motion.
right, yeah,
Communicate to Ken that we,
we
for a better word, want to put it in mothballs.
put it in mothballs, okay. So is there a motion? to-
Well, I just made it. Lee suggests that we, for the moment, abandon work on the swamp. And if something comes up, we can revive it, but at the moment, it'll be in mothballs.
Okay, so we have a motion
I'll second.
and a second. Discussion on the motion? I think we're all, of a mind. Okay, all in favor, roll call?
Aye.
Aye.
Fran,
All right.
and chair votes aye.
Okay, now at this moment, I'm going to suggest that we communicate this formally to Ken Bogrand and ask him to pursue the encroachment or removal of the encroachment.
Is that a motion?
Well, it's discussable.
Cause I feel like it's complicated because part of it's a building, right?
That's correct.
I'm not sure we wanna I'm not sure we wanna go with removing their building,
Yeah.
but certainly the plantings. I'm not sure. You think the building? Yeah,
Well,
Okay.
actually, we were talking, and when we were on the field trip, about thanking them for donating the plantings.
Yes,
Yeah,
exactly.
that's
what,
true.
Okay. It's an encroachment. And I think my suggestion is that the encroachment committee, such as it is, this is just changed again. The encroachment committee pursue it and let them deal with what's the encroachment, what's the,
So refer to them.
right.
Yeah,
That is-
there we go.
I
That's
like
it.
that. I didn't know we had an encroachment committee.
It's Ken.
It's Ken.
Yeah.
Refer to
It's
Ken.
just been Ken in part with
Yeah.
Will.
That issue, and then we don't have to talk about
Okay,
that.
Yeah.
We can still lay out.
right. I mean, I accept that at some point, like we've talked about this for so many years. I feel like I'm gonna be 95 and saying, have they moved those plants yet? You know?
Yeah, I know.
Hopefully you won't have to worry about that.
I think that my assumption is that when they go to flip the house, when they go to sell it, that
Only if there's something in writing to say that the encroachment has not been exact.
so,
And just the reason there's a committee of one is a very fine person who DPW hired not all that long ago, Will Del Urba, is now going to be the Conservation Commission liaison to the DPW. He's going to be the staff person. Did I say conservation? Yes.
yes.
So he's going from DPW to natural resources.
Is
Okay,
that a motion too? Do we have to make?
So it was a committee, the encroachment committee was 2 members, but
One is vacant.
vacant.
Well, yeah, it's partly it's Will, Ken, I can't remember Ken's, young lady in the office with him now.
Haley Cook.
Yes, Haley helps him out, but it all kind of generates from Ken. It's always stepping back in 1 foot into the permits and encroachments like I was kind of doing before we hired Will. And I'll be really hoping that we list that job and find somebody else to come back in. 'Cause it's a lot.
So is there a motion on the floor
Mine, yes.
to,
Basically,
Pursue.
to postpone and leave it to Ken Street.
well, refer to the encroachment committee? I think we need to put the word encroachment in.
Encroachment committee.
okay, so before we have more discussion, would you restate the motion? So,
That we refer to the town encroachment committee the fact that the encroachment has not been resolved.
fine, okay, so that's a
Second.
motion, we have a motion, a second. All in favor?
Oh.
I,
So who is that?
I second that.
Thank you, Bob.
Okay, let's get on to the business at hand.
We're going back to number,
We're going back to, I have.
are we still on Polka Cemetery or are we back to?
Yeah, this is
Okay.
Polka Cemetery.
We're gonna do all of that, 5 and 6 together.
Okay. So what I have here is a larger version of the map that has the squares and stuff on it. So,
Alan, is that the only copy still? Is that,
this,
so you got a photocopy?
right, I went to the water company and
Okay.
they printed that for me, so this is a larger version of the map that we had. And what I had done before our meeting on Friday was to lay out the potential areas Pulpus Road. So this is the existing cemetery here. And over the course of our field trip, we looked at the possibility of adding 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, no, wait a minute,
It was fine.
8.
It was fine.
I got 35 the last time we met.
Yeah. 7 times 5 is 35. Additional lots here by extending rows C through G into our property.
Okay, C through G by 5 lots each equals 35.
So what that would do. Now, we could also add a row B in front of the existing row C. That would give us an additional 28 spots.
Alan, 28, including the extension of 5?
Yes.
Okay.
I liked that idea. I felt there was enough room.
Yeah,
And if we're going to hire someone to put these in, I think it's gonna be more cost effective.
there was a sense, it wasn't an official meeting, although it was not on the agenda. There was a sense that this is something that we should deal with and approve.
Right.
Or discuss and approve.
And if they're going to come and do that, did you want to go even further and go in front of that?
Well, that's another question. Do we want to add a row A here? That would put us,
Another 28.
It would be able to closer to the
Bring
fence.
it closer to the fence.
I think our feeling on Friday was that one row was fine, but 2 rows would create lots that wouldn't be particularly desirable to people.
I think, well,
I agree.
my opinion
yeah,
is that one day we're going to run out of 4 lots, and that we're not going to have a lot of solutions later on down the road.
Oh, yes, we will. We're gonna commandeer that land against the Hicks.
You know,
no, no.
I don't know.
What we can
I think they
do,
should be laid out.
we could
Or should you
lay,
lay it out?
yeah, we
And
can
not offer them for sale?
Yeah.
And just leave that up your sleeve for when this is
Yeah.
all full.
Especially if you're gonna have a surveyor come out. The toughest part about surveying is getting all your gear set up and finding your zero. And then once you start pulling lines, that's easy. So it'd be very easy for them to mark out for us while they're there,
Yeah.
an extra row, especially on that side of the cemetery. To jump to the other half, to do,
Yeah, it's
the
very
lower
simple.
part of the
It's just-
alphabet will probably be a reset. So if they're gonna come in to do one side, I would get your money's worth out of the time that they're there.
Yeah, if they're going, and then we don't need to open them for sale.
Yeah, exactly. That's a good point. Okay, so the motion then would be to add
Lay out row A, but at the moment, do not offer those
That's
lots
an
for
extra
sale.
28, so 28, 28, 35.
right, so we'll lay out rows A, row B, and then we'll extend
C through G.
yes, C through G up to, over to as far as we can. And that will give us a total of, let's see, 63 plus
86,
20,
91.
So the other area that we looked at was this area here, okay? And one of the things that we decided to do would be to clear, to have the DPW go and put in a work order to mow this area. We'll keep it about 20 feet from the property line, just to let this vegetation grow up. There's some pretty tall vegetation down here, so it screens basically Hicks.
And Alan, would we have the surveyors do that when they're
Yeah.
lay out lots there? Or are we just going to clear?
we're gonna, that what we decided to do is to clear that
Okay.
area. And put in a work order to the DPW to mow this area. By the way, I went back after Sunday, and I have some pink string, and I marked the boundary inside where we want to mow. Again, it's well off of their property and that sort of thing. So what we'll need is a motion to put a work order into the DPW to mow that area here.
I'd like to make the motion, to put a work order in to the DPW to mow this area.
I'll second that.
There's a second. All right. Now, discussion on the motion. I talked with Charlie the other day about it, and, you know, so,
Are you going to mark which trees to spare and which trees to?
yes, what I would like to be out there personally when the DPW goes out there to mow or to clear or whatever. And I'll go up beforehand and just double check all the markings and so on. I'll mark the trees that, you know, we don't want to get rid of any of the big trees out there. We'll leave those in essentially, where is it now? This area back in here. Okay, any further discussion?
Well, when we went out with Mo, he marked the trees that he thought were great.
Right, exactly. So when prior to having them go out there, I'll be sure to mark, you know, the trees. I'll put some surveyor tape around the trees to be cut.
Yeah.
I want to make sure that it's, the tape indicates that they should be cut or that they should be saved.
And
So
you'll
I want to
there.
be there personally.
You'll be there.
So should we have a vote on this?
Okay, any further discussion on the motion? Vote then.
I vote yes.
I,
Aye.
Aye. Great. Okay, so that will give us some space to work with here. And okay, as far as the laying out lots here, I think personally, these are going to be more desirable because people like to be up on the hilltop and all that sort of thing. So I think, well, I guess maybe what we'll do is let's get these laid out. And
would it be better, sorry, from what Charlie said, that, you know, once you get the surveyor out there, should we do?
And that's something that I was just gonna say too, like, it's difficult to find a guy to do this, right? Or is this easier than this guy?
I'm not sure. The initial layout was done by Comet. They sent their guys out there, and in fact, Lee and I were out there, and we put the corner posts in the ground.
But just like we were talking about, hey, if they're all set up and they're doing the lines,
Mhm,
I don't see why we can't do everything
mhm.
and create something like that.
Yeah.
But not even have them open until we're ready to open that section or whatever. I don't know.
It makes sense, except for one thing. The ground is still fairly rugged. There's some steep parts, there's some flat parts. And I think the idea was we would mow it and then go back out and look and see which of this was reasonable.
Well, when is it going to be mowed, the ballpark? Why don't we have, it doesn't sound like this is going to be done tomorrow. Can we wait till the mowing and then go look?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, I'd have to, once the work order goes in, it kind of, I don't know what their exact schedule is.
Are we talking a month or a week?
Could be, I
or
would
a
try
year?
to prioritize it. Less than a year.
It wouldn't be a year.
Yeah, no, it wouldn't be a year. It would, at the very latest, depending on what's on their schedule and slate, they try to usually go out and do brush cutting in groups. So, you know,
Correct.
they'll jump off of that because they are a crew of 12 guys doing everything.
Yeah.
So like today, they're all out doing pothole repairs. So they kind of shifting groups, so depending on how much they have stacked up already
Right.
for brush cutting. I would say the latest in the winter months, that's when they tend to, when we keep in catch with potholes and this and that, they do a lot of brush cutting.
So maybe-
But because it's marked, we can talk to Ray and see if we can't prioritize, get
So,
it.
I mean, if it doesn't take too long, I think then we should wait and get the surveyor then. I act like it's
Well,
easy to get the surveyor.
What we'll do is inquire, I did speak with Joe Marklinger sometime last week. I invited him to come out and take a look at the cemeteries, but he couldn't do it on Friday when we were out there. But, so we'll see. He's a possibility.
But so between Friday or Saturday, whenever it was, and when Ken just announced that he isn't going to do it, something happened?
Well, that was for the Hicks property,
It was only for
so,
the Hicks.
yeah, I don't know, that's the question.
No, it was at the Hickson also.
Yeah, I think he was a
Yeah.
little concerned
Yeah.
about the Hicks because of the fact that he's the one who brought up the fact that the Hicks property is land court. And that if the property is land courted, that's a whole different level of survey that, if you're making changes and so on. So I think that was one of the reasons why he wasn't enthusiastic about
Part of it.
going
So
out.
I'm gonna look at Barbara and say, kind of like the logistics of the thing, let's not delay. Delay will be built into the process.
So you think we should just do
Right.
those?
No, I think we should ask DPW to do the mowing, and we should try and find a surveyor. These are two
Yeah.
steps in the same process.
I think from like a landscape perspective, once we get this cleared, we're gonna wanna kind of get it cleaned up, get some grass seed down, so if, it's gonna wanna be looking at the rest of the cemetery where it's lawn, where we're looking at it, so in the time where that's coming in, if the surveyor comes in, maybe they're able to lay out a couple of reference points on that side
Exactly.
while we're trying to establish,
Right.
grass in that area and keep the weeds and stuff knocked down. So that way, when they come back, they can easily find, the beginnings of row Q and W, and then, pull strings
That sounds.
from there.
that
Yeah.
Might be-
Sounds
might be a
perfectly
suggestion.
reasonable,
Yeah, that's a great idea. That's good.
I like it.
All right, so I'll work on trying to find a surveyor. I'll contact Joe Marklinger again to see if he's,
We're not worried about.
yeah, right, exactly. And if that doesn't work, I'll inquire around. I know they're all busy.
I think they'll always be all busy, so we have to.
But
Yeah, I know.
Don't forget Ken Bogrand's suggestion of Leo Isidore.
Right, yeah, I've worked with Leo on a number of different roads and right away.
I think I've met him once.
And of course, though he does a ton of work all over the island, so. And I'll also approach Mark at the water company. They very generously donated, the time for these. In fact, Lee and I were out there putting in the corner markers. They would have a point, and here's one, and so we put in the corner markers and stuff like that. And I know that they've been busy, and of course I have to be careful because I'm chairman of the water commission, and don't want to abuse my whatever.
Send in Lee.
So anyway, I'll bring it up with Mark, and we'll see if we can get a surveyor. I think that's a great idea as far as getting at least points of reference up here.
Yeah,
So
just make
we'll
it faster for the next time.
do that.
Sure,
That
because
way.
once you get the points, you can do it with a chain.
Yeah, well, yeah, I mean, ultimately, if you have the
You-
existing reference points,
You
the
wouldn't
rest of
need,
it almost be laid out with
you
string,
wouldn't need
string and tape
operation.
measures, to
Exactly.
be perfectly honest.
Alan, we already have our little rebars in
Yeah, no. Yeah,
in case someone starts plucking
yeah.
toe markers.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that was part of the problem down here. I think, ran out of markers, corner markers down here. So Ray and Mo, who dig the holes, have had some difficulty finding which. So,
Let's see why.
well, I always tell them, be sure, if you have any question, call me, let me know, I'll come out there and we'll find it. And
Yeah, me too.
So Alan, I'm going to suggest that we have done justice to item 5, and you're beginning to talk about item 6,
Yeah.
supplies needed.
Oh, yes, okay.
That's Charlie, right?
So on this first sheet, basically, there's kind of 3 main options that we have to go with, and they can all be, and we have to decide on quantity. If we want to put one of these, so they're marked out in 4 quadrants, so you can potentially put one in between, B2, B3, C3, and C2, and mark every corner of every
This is the corners, yeah.
every plot. And so there's couple different styles. These essentially all would have to be hand punched. And so the first 2 are just 2 different styles of a metal or aluminum marker. The only real difference between the first 2 pages is they say block and lot, versus so you just stamp accordingly. The third, and then these would all have to be, you have to get rebar, drive rebar into the ground. These would cap it.
Do you, sorry,
So
do you think that when you cap that onto the rebar, that it's like firm?
that's what that's
not like
that sleeve, that yellow sleeve. There's a plastic sleeve in there that's supposed to basically, when you smash it on there, make it so you can't
Plastic
pull it off.
If we're going to have a human being stamping A11, A10, B11, B10 in each corner, you may as well just buy the blank.
By the what?
Yeah, by the first one.
By the blank.
Yeah, where it doesn't say block and lot.
Yeah.
And then the other option are, is the third page, which are these markers that have the same 4 quadrants. They're just made out of recycled plastic and they with metal in them, so they are metal detectable, and they include the stake. So instead of having to purchase rebar
Are they
to go with it,
considerably, so I feel like the first 2 we're looking at look like this, right?
first 2 they are
That big,
they're-
they're like the green ones we have out there.
they're 2 inches.
Okay,
They're
and
2
this one
inch
is,
diameter,
and the last one is,
1 inch and 3/4 square.
so a lot
So
smaller.
a 1/4 inch smaller.
Would that represent 4 corners?
Yeah, so you put it in the center of the 4, so it's got the same
Yeah.
cut across pattern on the top. So you mark each corner.
Will the plastic take a,
Yeah, I believe it's designed to be to be sledged into the ground.
no,
But what
I'm
about the
talking about
marking?
is,
Metal detector.
No,
No.
just to see
No,
what number it is.
Oh, the punch.
Yeah.
Yes. Yep.
it'll take a punch?
Yes, I believe so.
Because-
I can order one of each. One of the plastic and one of the metal. If we want to just see them for size and looks,
Yeah,
because there is a difference between having a little metal disc in the ground versus this red end. So if you'd like me to order one of each, I can do that.
sure.
Let's do
I
that.
like that.
So we can look at them and make a decision.
Now, the existing markers that we have are metal ones, and they're, I'm guessing
Maybe
maybe
3?
3 inches on diameter. Now, those are not the toe markers, because toe markers we also need. And those would have the letter and the number of the lot and all that sort of thing.
I wasn't sure if we had corner markers at each corner of the head and foot of each lot, if you then need a toe marker in the center.
Correct. That's what we currently have out there.
Yeah, so it's just a decision, we want to mark the 4 corners of each lot. Or then have or just the toe and center, or have both.
So you're saying we might not need the toe marker?
It's an option.
Hmm.
So, so you'd have a 4-way, head and toe on each corner of the lot, marking, the junction of each of the lots, and each quadrant would be stamped. Could be lot A2, lot B2, lot A3, lot B3, on whatever that corner is.
Right.
So it'd be, be a bit of work getting these things all stamped and then installed
Yeah, it
properly.
would.
But the upside of these, you could install it on a 2-foot piece of rebar, which makes it a lot more difficult to pull out of the ground than like those big kind of other markers or washers with a small nail, which you can pop out of the ground. I deal with it on the sports fields all the time. People come through. We try to mark our fields to make it easy for layout. And people go, "Oh, what's this?" Pull it out of the ground.
So I had a Mercedes diesel car. And the bumper fell off. Literally. Dissimilar metal corrosion, second line on the second paragraph. I think that's important, because what happened to my aluminum bumper was it was in contact with the steel frame.
Yeah, so that sleeve in there helps make a buffer between the steel and the aluminum. It also makes it hard to.
Because otherwise, 5 to 10 years from now, the mowers will be picking up these things as they come off the rebar.
Yeah. I like the idea of toe markers as well.
Yeah.
I mean, you might not have to stamp those.
Sure.
Because
Yeah, we can just mark the corners and then have the toe markers in each slot. That's
because
fine.
that's helpful for me when I go and store.
Yeah,
Just
exactly.
finding where it is. Okay, I know that. But I can just imagine trying to go, and if it's spun around, I know you just put it up right. But the toe marker is always good for me. So I can always find those.
Yeah.
Okay,
because-
so if I interpret what you just said, Scott, in favor of a toe marker, appropriately marked, therefore we don't have to be stamping numbers onto these.
We don't
corners.
have to, but we get these as well.
Oh, we get them,
Yeah.
but we don't have to hand stamp them.
Yeah,
Because
that's the laborers. I mean,
Yeah.
there's 180
Yeah,
cemetery
can you
imagine?
lots
Yeah.
currently, plus the addition, and then
If they could come stamped, awesome. But,
Well, didn't we have some,
We did, yeah.
the original ones came?
The ones that we have out there now.
Yeah.
Have
the toe marker,
the toe marker.
but the corner greens are just green.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
What happened is that we got the initial markers and they had random numbers or something like that on them. So we decided to use those for corner markers. And those are the ones we punched in the ground at each of the corners of the 4 lots and then put a toe marker in the center.
So none of these are toe markers.
Hmm?
None of these are toe
No,
markers.
these are
None of
toe
those are toe
markers.
markers. No, the toe markers.
So we also need to get toe markers,
Yes, yeah.
and they need to be,
And they need to be lettered in number.
Like A4.
Yeah, exactly.
Charlie, do you have a source?
I'll have to look. I'll do some research, or if we know where we ordered them before, so they'd be matching.
Yeah, I don't know, because that was
that was
years ago.
really
That was
long ago.
Kara.
That was 2 directors ago.
Is that Kara, the DPW?
No, it was before that. I'm pretty sure when I came on the commission, we were talking about those.
I know they just arrived when I started.
Okay.
Okay, who was here before Rob?
Krasowski, what's her name?
Yeah, Carabas.
Kara.
Yeah.
Kara,
She-
Kara,
Okay, for the
she
Kara?
found them.
And I'll go through the archives.
Yeah.
So I see what we can find.
Because I wonder if we can't just order them,
Well,
if you
it's,
say, like when you order something, you say, start with C1.
yeah, well,
And then
that's,
they can do it for us?
yeah, that's
Right.
it. No, that's exactly what I did when we ordered them that time. Because we knew the rows, the letters, and the numbers.
Yeah.
So we knew, we just took off the chart. And then we made a list of those, sent them to the manufacturer, and they sent us
Yeah.
back the toe markers with all the numbers and letters and stuff on it.
She called them medallions.
How'd you get that
A
so?
medallion.
I think she did.
Technically.
I'm gonna use that in your search.
All right.
That's from Carol?
Yeah, from 2014.
You
How old was I?
forward that to me, Scotty?
Yeah,
Yeah, right.
were you born?
Yeah, well, mate.
Medallions.
Well, hopefully part of emails that keep your internet footprint is up forever.
I know, but finding it, I would have taken me 2 days.
So anyway, okay, so we need to find a source then for the toe markers and then make a decision about what we're gonna use on the
Well,
corner,
Burnson International would be the first place I would.
which would,
this one here, this company.
Oh. I guess, yeah, unless,
Yes, I'll do some research. I can,
Yeah.
if I find something, soon I can email everybody too. So we don't have to wait till next meeting to look at things, and I'll get one of each of these coming, so we have an idea, some samples.
I Googled, cemetery corner markers, and basically I got a whole bunch of cemeteries.
Yeah, I know, it's a tough one.
So I tried different words and so on. I couldn't come up with anything for toe markers, even though I put in cemetery toe markers. Anyway.
Sometimes, Alan, just reversing the word or toe marker cemetery,
That's an idea.
or marker toe cemetery. Otherwise, you might get pictures of Julius Caesar's feet.
True. Exactly. Okay, anything else then on the supplies?
Sounds good.
Toe markers and so on. Okay, let's go back to number 3. We haven't done the lot sales yet, just to do that. There are there were no lot sales since our last
Yep.
meeting.
POL, ACHI, Nantucket, -MA.
Oh,
Dash like that or lower?
No, like that. There you go, you got me right, William.
They,
So we have no new sales?
no new lot sales since the last meeting.
did we have to do a motion on the asking to mow the work order?
Maybe.
I think Fran made that motion.
Okay, hang on. I moved reference of the encroachment to Ken program, and Barbara seconded. And
I did move that we issue a work order. I really did.
And I seconded that,
You
yes,
seconded
it.
okay.
But did we,
So did-
did we vote on it?
Oh, I don't think we did, we discussed.
okay,
it.
Fran and Scott seconded, moved to mow eastern side as well.
So do we need
We
to
need to
vote
vote.
on it?
Okay, so we need to vote
Yeah.
on that one? Okay, so everyone clear on the motion? This is to mow, put the work order in for it. Scotty
Aye.
Aye.
and chair votes aye. Okay, oh, I see what I did. I have 2 different copies of the agenda here because I changed it the last minute. That's
Okay.
my issue. I
Right.
apologize for that.
No problem.
So we did discussion of hopeless monument restoration report. The work at Old North was completed. Fran had a comment about using the biologic cleaner on some of the stones. I went in shortly after the work was done, and I was very impressed because all the stones were straight up. And they did a great job of straightening up the stones. And then, of course, I went over to New North across the street and really got a sense of what they had done over there by straightening up the stones. On my way back home, I went by Quaker Cemetery, and I noticed the stones are all nice and clean. However, they're leaning in different directions and so on. So that is a very highly visible stone. So anyway.
Well, the point I was making was that we have the stones in the Quaker Cemetery and the stones in the Historic College Cemetery.
Right.
We have all the stones treated.
And the DPW did that, right?
DPW did that, yeah.
Now,
That
when
was,
we had this done, I really think that we were envisioning that when the work in the Old North Cemetery was done, that all the stones would be treated, but that wasn't actually what we contracted for. They only cleaned the stones that they repaired, and the result is a patchwork. Here and there, you've got a very clean stone interspersed among many other stones that have quite a bit of lichen on them and are not clean. I don't think that was what we envisioned. I think we just didn't stop to think when we made the agreement, that although we were agreeing to the repairs of designated stones and the cleaning of them, we somehow failed to say, yeah, we want all of the stones cleaned.
Can I address some of the questions that you asked in the email?
Yeah.
Because I didn't envision that the whole cemetery would be clean, just because I've done it before, and I knew that we're just going to do this one, and so that was my thought, just going into it. And I remember when we did it at the Prospect Hill Cemetery, is that they didn't want to go and clean everything because of the cost involved with cleaning everything, and they wanted to put the money into the repairing of the stones. Now I'm just wondering if it's two separate items, like actually using the money to get those stones up right and fixed, and then because the DPW did Quaker and
That's right.
and the historic color, and so I'm wondering, either can we get a quote to do the whole cemetery and see what that would cost from our people, and does that have to go through a bid process again or anything like that? Because I know they would have just been focused on fixing
Right.
the monument and not cleaning the whole thing. Or is that something DPW can we can get DPW to do, is do the D2?
Yeah, so we'd have to specifically write it into the scope of work that we're requesting.
Right.
Which is why the scope that we approved and sent out specifically identified, I think it was 34 stones
Right.
to be cleaned and repaired. We didn't ask them to do
I know,
anything more.
I know we didn't.
And so the way the contracts work is if they do anything beyond
Right.
what's written in the contract, they don't get paid for it.
Right.
So going forward, if you look at the last page of that bigger stack of sheet that I gave you guys. My cost estimates for what it'll take to finish the cemeteries. There's a price difference between Quaker and the other ones, simply because I actually have a quote in hand.
Yep.
Because he was here and was able to look at it.
And sorry to interrupt, but just a side note, that is much more along the lines of what it should be, compared to the initial first price we were given.
Yeah.
So I feel good about it. I feel good about your estimates.
Yeah. So, and then what I did was I took his price for Old North, and that would give us the $709 per stone, and then just use that as a base price to figure out what we would need moving forward.
Now, the fact of the matter is that the stones in the Quaker Cemetery and the Historic Colored Cemetery have already all been treated with the D2 flowers. So we really are not asking to do that again.
Right. I think in the overall, in their overall cost package, they're looking at this as a blanket of 34 stones. And it takes us X number of hours to repair and this and that, and they come up with a general figure per stone. So not every, one stone might actually only cost, $200 to fix. I think the D2 solution is a relatively quick process, relatively cheap. So I don't know if taking that out from, for the colored cemetery, I don't think this price would change. It's already been treated. But if we increase, say at Newtown, we're looking at 81 stones to be repaired. That's only a small fraction of the total number of stones there. To include a D2 solution cleaning of the entire cemetery would probably jump that number up.
And that would be my concern, and I totally agree that it looks way better. And I enjoy looking at Quaker every time I go by there. And it's kind of like a check to how D2 is effective. But I just think to actually get the stones fixed.
Well, that's another issue. I would really like to have a field trip with you to Old North to specifically look at repairs that have been done. I was looking at them yesterday morning. I'd like to look at them with you to see how you feel about it. So could we?
Do you have concerns about the quality of the repair?
Well, when they described it, they were talking about epoxy. I was wondering, and now when I look at them, the repairs are very visible. I would just like your professional opinion about whether this is the best that can be done.
Okay. And I'll totally go and do that happily.
What?
I'll happily go and do that and look at them because
Yeah.
we do need to get a quality control of.
Yeah, because
what we're
I
paying
don't
for.
want to, let out any more contracts until we're absolutely sure that what we're paying for is what we want.
And I haven't walked through that cemetery, but there's just 2 notes on that one. Is that that's a very difficult one to repair because those stones are slate and thin, and I'd say that's the hardest one. You're going to get a better results on the one across the road because they're newer. But I do remember being initially impressed by, wow, they did a pretty good job. But I didn't walk through everything and see every little repair.
If appropriate, I want to ask Charlie whether or not we should investigate with DPW that they would deal with a work order to apply D2 to the stones. As each cemetery is repaired, DPW follows up with,
Yeah, I could ask, we'll certainly put it in, I don't know where it would fall,
since
They've
they,
done it twice.
priority wise.
But I'd be happy to go
Uh,
through the cemetery.
yeah,
It's important.
It seems as though when they did Historic Colored and Quaker Cemetery, that it was like in less than a day, those cemeteries would be done. I went through each of the stones and, that sort of thing.
They're
So,
also 2 of the smaller
Yeah.
cemeteries in terms of number of stones.
right, exactly.
Well, historic colored cemetery, it says number of repairs 39, but it's a lot more than 39 stones there, and they apply D2 to all of them, not just to 39.
Yeah, I should know how many there are stones.
And
there
the
are.
Quaker
It's over 100.
Cemetery, 13 to be repaired, but there are 52 stones. I happen to know.
this is not going to go into the minutes, but the cemetery administrator at that time was very, very anxious to try the D2. And I think that increased the priority.
Right, well, I think, Charlie, you think that over a number of a time that.
Yeah,
we-
we could certainly be,
Yeah.
would be worth it, I think.
Right,
We can also change, there's nothing to say we can't put out our next request. Obviously, Quaker doesn't need it. And we're gonna have to find some funding to do the rest of it. There's nothing to say that we couldn't ask, give us numbers to repair, 81 stones in Newtown Cemetery and treat I'll just say 200 stones with D2 solution and find out, maybe it's, while we're here, it's, we got one guy who just walks up and
yeah.
it's fast and spraying it.
So that's 2 avenues to
Yeah,
explore.
Yeah,
Okay,
we've
great.
got options.
Mhm.
Perfect.
All right, so the consensus seems to be that we want to follow up in after the cemetery, the stones are reset and fixed, to go through with the D2 biologic and clean the stones.
And who would do that?
DPW.
Yeah.
We would put a work order in and see how.
So I'm hearing, Alan, two separate paths, both of which we should pursue. One is to ask DPW if they'd be willing to apply D2 against a work order. And the other is to make our next request for bids to have alternatives.
Yes.
We could also separate the bids as well. We could put out this, we've got a very comprehensive scope of work for repair. We could also put out an entirely separate bid for
For the
D2.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a much lesser level of expertise.
Yeah.
I like that.
Don't hire a PhD to be the barista.
Because I think our aim is to have all the cemeteries that we're responsible for that have monuments in them, to have them looking presentable. Right now, I don't feel that Old North looks all that more presentable than it did before. Although, yes, we have stood things up, that's good. But a person just looking at that cemetery is going to see a patchwork of some brightly clean stones here and there, and some that are pretty lichen infested. And to an observer, I don't think that really is presentable.
Mhm.
So let us see what we can do to take the extra step to make the monuments in Old North universally clean. And then as we go forward, having work done in the other cemeteries, either make that part of the contract that all the stones will be clean, or alternatively, they'll do the work on repairs and the DPW will make sure that all the stones are clean. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah, I like the idea of putting out a separate bid for the cleaning and so on, because, that's concentrate on
Yeah.
getting them all the same color and, or,
Well,
Actually, that's-
but we can ask.
yeah.
Worth
right,
asking.
Yeah,
I can reach out, and just get a quote on what it would cost to do, we'll pick a cemetery, get a total number of stones, and I can, again, extrapolate from there. I'll reach out to Walter out, and see who was our low bidder before, and just say, if you were coming in just to do D2 solution on 200 stones, what would it cost us?
Right,
Yeah.
thank you,
Can
Tom.
I just remind everyone that there was a distinction between restoration and I
Exactly.
forget the other one.
Right.
What was it?
right,
Repair.
Repair. And I think restoration is bringing that stone back to like
Yeah.
new, which is not. I'm not talking about the D2 now. I'm talking about the epoxy and making it look like a.
Well, no, I
brand
mean,
new thing.
obviously, we can't
Yeah.
bring it back to new, but I just really would like to have your opinion on some of them that have been epoxied.
Yeah.
How you feel about it.
Okay. Do we need a field trip, or would you like me just to go through and report back?
I'd like you to go with Fran,
Yeah, I'll meet with you, Fran.
I like the wording.
Okay.
then it doesn't need to be an official meeting.
Yeah,
No,
two
that's-
is not
Yeah.
important.
So we'll just figure it out. Okay.
let's see, where are we?
Very
I
close.
think we're on,
Cemetery commission, supplies needed.
Yeah, that would be
Budgets,
new
budgets,
budgets.
budgets. That's what I see.
capital and operating budget.
7.
We also,
The
Scott
cemetery,
and I also have a design we need to have approved.
That'll be extra.
Okay, we'll get there.
so we're on budget now, number 7.
okay, cemetery commission, the capital and operating budgets. It's all of a sudden become clear that we need to have an operating budget. My understanding is that once we propose an operating budget and we would say, set aside a dollar amount for whatever items we can think of we might be needing either for the cemetery, such as the work for the biologics,
Markers.
the markers and that sort of thing. And the issue, of course, is going to town meeting, because for an operating budget, correct me if I'm wrong, but for an operating budget, we need to have the operating budget approved at town meeting.
Yes, so as I understand, I didn't get into that today because I was doing some deep dive into minutes. We have an operating budget right now of about $9,000 for the cemetery commission. So we can do, we can ask for increase
Mm-hmm.
in that budget, which would like, what we have to go to town meeting for is if we want to move funds from the lot sales
Right,
into some sort of an operating budget.
exactly.
That's what that, we would need town meeting approval
I'm pretty sure we want to.
for that, so.
Yeah.
Charlie, the $9,000 that we've had for the last number of years, is that going to brush cutting and fence posts and things like that?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
So the problem is a lot of this, everything, like I think Rob, instead of charging some materials to that budget for brush cutting and fencing, he would just
He
take it
was-
out of the
he-
existing
he was
DPW.
incorporating it into whatever.
Yeah, into the operations budget and accounting.
Right.
Which works well because it does alleviate some items, because like say for split rail fence, we have pallets of it we required in bulk, so us having to go out and buy and acquire it, separately for cemetery projects. So this could be used, like there is money sitting there, to order, the corner markers, toe markers, if you decide as a commission, you all wanted, cemetery commission official sweatshirts, that sort of thing. So that money, is sort of there. And it, I believe, is a recurring budget from what I've seen.
I thought, Charlie, that we were going to get dark black stovepipe hats. So that
Like
we
if
could be,
Lincoln a good run for his money.
so that we could be somber.
Go over to Lock and Co in England, have them officially made.
He'll try.
I actually have one,
So,
a Lock and Co. hat.
I was watching a documentary on them the other day. Actually.
never even,
Yeah, they still use the same hat fitting machine. It's like 150 years old or more. Yeah.
It's called a conformateur.
So since we haven't used our $9,000, is there like $387,000 in that account?
If you don't use it,
You lose
it
it.
You lose it.
disappears.
So it's so that we don't. There is not a backlog. It
Right.
just keeps they roll over
Okay.
the same amount. And the same thing is if we say all of a sudden this year we go over and we use 10,000. That gives us even more of a leg to say, hey, we need to increase to the extra $1,000.
So, I mean, you've been looking at the archives or whatever, have we underspent, overspent?
Because of how things were being done, I think it was set there, and I don't think we really touched it.
Right, I don't think I never truly
Yeah,
understood.
nothing out of the official,
So is
like what I would call operating
$9,000,
budget.
if we're going to put in for this, so we should increase that amount?
Yeah, we can. I mean, we can.
I think we should move, every year, we should move lot sales into operations.
Yeah, I do too, but if we, down the road, we may not sell a lot, and, I mean, I don't think that's gonna happen, but that's herky jerky. But I think it would be nice to have a set amount that we adjust for inflation, that we know we can count on.
Yeah,
every
I'm
year.
still like that whole side of the town is new to me because I'm in the process of also writing a budget for the Parks and Rec department, which is interesting. That's what fits the line items.
Oh,
to go through.
believe me, I worked on a middle school budget, 1 year, and
Needs
it's
to be more artistic.
really, really hard. So that's why I'm asking, we don't have to justify every pen that we're
Right.
buying.
So I'm going to suggest that we identify how much of the CPC grant we've spent. There's not a lot left. And what we might anticipate as future needs that could only be satisfied by CPC grant. And at some point, make an application to them.
I don't have the exact number, but I do know we've got just enough left in the CPC to cover Newtown Cemetery. I think we'll have about $100 left over. Or sorry, Quaker. If we were to decide to do that.
So we have enough for Newtown.
No, we have enough for Quaker.
Quaker.
That's why I have a quote in hand for that.
Right.
Because I asked them while they were here to give me a number. And he actually came in a little high from what we had.
Yeah.
And I just kind of, I just missed it. And I said, how much did I miss it by? I was like, a little bit. And he goes, hang on. And sent me another quote.
How about now?
And basically, and I said,
Was
yeah,
that-
I said, you came under.
So does that mean we're
Well,
going ahead with
yeah,
that?
that's something.
If everyone decides, I think
Yeah.
Fran wanted to take a look with Scotty first to decide.
Oh yeah, I think we should do that just now and then.
Right, so maybe go in the next 2 days.
Yeah, we will.
Yeah, and then just let me know if everyone, we can have an email chain, I think, to decide that we want to go.
Okay, yeah, because if he's coming,
Yeah, they're constantly on and off island, this
Yeah.
company.
Yeah.
So to do it, I mean, obviously before the winter, we get into
We're
colder weather.
talking
it's better.
like, we're talking Ludlow?
Not for quicker. So,
No.
yeah,
Company.
LMC,
Oh,
LMC
right,
contract. Yeah.
and,
So let's go back to the
are we-
budget.
Are we agreed as far as Quaker Cemetery then being the next, seeing how, well, not now, but.
Contingent on
Contingent on,
Scotty's
yeah,
expertise.
Contingent on the opinion, the work and all that sort of thing. But in terms of the cemetery, we have just enough money to do one more cemetery, to do Quaker Cemetery as well.
I think it's a no-brainer.
Why don't you say that, we are good to go unless there's something we come up with to discuss at our next.
Okay,
next
yeah,
meeting.
I think so, because those stones are nice and white, but I did notice after going by the Old North, seeing all the stones nice and straight, I look at Quaker and they're leaning every which way, so, yeah, I think that would be a highly visible
Highly visible.
one. Okay.
So, yeah, it's good.
So
Did you
I'll
move
just put-
anything on that?
Do we need a vote on something like that, or?
I think
I'll
just
word
to
it,
have it
yeah.
in the minutes.
Okay, yeah, let's do it. So I would entertain a
Okay,
motion.
you've asked, should we go ahead with Quaker? The answer was yes, but we will check before entering into contract. And so who's gonna move that?
I'll move that.
Second.
And now we need to vote on it, right?
Okay,
Okay, we have a motion and everyone clear on the motion? Scotty? Aye or nay?
Aye.
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 And chair votes aye.
Sorry, I was just.
Great. Okay, so that's our
That's
next
fabulous, actually.
project.
Suspense.
All right, so once we get a surveyor into Pulpus Cemetery, once we get the corner markers and the toe markers, we can get that squared away.
But Alan, we haven't finished the budget. Right, have we finished the budget item? Are we gonna
Yeah,
ask
pretty
for more
much.
than? No, but we didn't come up with a
I just need
sum.
to know what we need to, what we'd like to request it to, the increase.
Yeah, I think we should request an increase. From the 9,000.
Oh, yeah.
Where's it gonna come from?
Lot sales.
Magic.
Well, yeah, we could either come from lots or it would be a general, what do they call it, in the EIA, maybe,
From the town.
from the
our
town, basically
taxes.
come out of like the town general fund.
Yeah.
So then it would be a
I think we should.
recurring, in
Reoccurring.
theory, if we increase $5,000 out of our lot sale account and we don't make at least $5,000 a year, we're gonna slowly just deplete that lot sale account until
Yeah.
it's gone. So we could ask in terms of lot sale money. I'd have to look at it again to see how much is in there. We could decide to ask, we're another year out, basically from CPC funds.
Mhm.
We'll have to go in front of them next August, I think, to start that process to try to get a remaining. We need about $140,000 to finish repair work. If we decide we don't want to wait on that, I don't know if we can use lot sale money for restoration work. I feel like I gotta talk to Alice about that again. If there's anything that we can or cannot use that for, I think we cannot use it for restoration work, but we could use it for surveying work.
Mhm.
There's a possibility that comes in over our say $9,000 current budget. So we could ask for, to move, $30,000 out of.
So you're saying we can't take the whole lot?
I think we could.
sale?
I'm not sure if I still gotta try to with finance to find out if we can say we'd like to just make an additional operating, call it something, operations account 2 with all of the funds from the lot sales that we could then draw from for different items, or if we have to specifically say we'd like to create an account for brush cutting and we'd like to move $10,000 from lot sales to here, and we'd have to create a specific account for cemetery supplies and then move. So I'm trying to get clarity on that.
In budgetary terms, you create a budget for a certain entity. You create a budget for an entity, cemetery commission. And then within that budget, you have object codes that say, this is for maintenance, this is for renovation, this is, so the object codes would then identify how the money went.
Right. So that's what I need to find is if we have to specify object codes to move that.
And I think the people who can tell us are in the finance office.
So I just have to get.
Yeah, I
with
still go back to what I said a little bit ago. I think if ours is $9,000 this year, we should automatically ask for a little bit more next year.
Sure. And that's an easy,
I think that's
that's
sort
a
of standard,
basically a
yeah.
form that
Yeah.
they just fill out, submit to.
Okay, you've moved to expand existing operating fund either by transfer from lot sales or by injection of town money. That's your motion.
So
And do you have a number?
I don't have a
What's your
number.
number?
Do we want to increase 25%?
I don't know. I don't have a number. Because I don't have any expertise as to how much we need to
25?
use.
Well, that's,
You want to
Right.
use the math and call 30%? Increase
But,
from, increase from $9,000 to
I
$12,000?
feel
Yeah,
comforted.
12's my number,
What's your number?
12.
Because I'm comforted by the
I'll take
fact that
50.
if we don't use it, it goes back to the town. It isn't like we're not just gonna go, oh.
Now the more things are happening
Yeah.
for us, we need.
yeah,
I think that's true, and especially as Newtown opens up at some point down the road, we're going to need to survey that and put a plot, and I don't know,
yeah, exactly.
I like 12. But I'm not basing it on anything except. Yeah.
Well, that's one of the issues that we faced over the years is that, we've sort of had a number, well, we have this money somewhere and
Yeah.
but we haven't also had that many expenses that we've encountered. The work, the monument restoration work and surveys and things like that. And
Well, does that,
So
Yeah.
is the motion asking for 12?
12 additional to the 9.
no, wait a minute.
Increase from 9 to
Increase the
12.
9 to the 12. Sorry, Fran, what were you saying?
So if that's Barbara's motion, I would second it.
that's fine,
So
12,000
the
total.
motion would be increasing the budget from
9,000
9
to
to
12,000.
12.
Is that legal? Can we do that?
We can request it.
Yeah, requesting it,
Right.
yeah.
We're-
We're gonna request it.
Okay.
It's up to the powers to be to give it to us.
Exactly.
Okay.
It's illegal.
And then they may come, it's quite possible, they may come back and say, you've had 9,000,
You
but
never
you haven't touched the past
Well,
20 years.
right,
Start using this first.
Yeah.
So,
and with that, we
but
don't,
at least we know.
Yeah, exactly.
Two authorized comments. I think it's one, it's too timid. And two, if we're setting up a budget for the commission, we need to ask our finance office to work this into a recurring renewable basis. Just like every other fund in the town, during the time of budget setting, they assign numbers. Then the finance committee reviews, and eventually it becomes a warrant article.
but isn't that, Charlie, what you said we have had?
Yeah,
Right, I mean, it's what we
when I
have
look
had.
in the history of the account, there has been an operations line item.
But we have had a recurring.
So the
Okay.
increase, you ask the increase once, and then it essentially stays that.
Okay.
So there's a motion to,
Expand existing operating fund either by transfer or by injection of town money.
great.
From 9 to 12.
Exactly.
Okay, everybody clear on what we're voting?
That's Barbara's motion.
Is that-
Barbara
Fran seconded,
I
and
second
Fran
it.
seconded
now
it.
you're on a vote.
Okay, vote.
Aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Unanimous. Okay, I think we got,
Any-
No, we're not quite done.
We got one new business when you're ready.
yes.
I put forward that we vote on approval of a headstone for our fellow
Oh.
commissioner. And, well, I'm gonna put quotation marks here, add that to it later, but I just wanted to add that to the proof. And this is for, Polka Cemetery.
Lovely.
It's a, Fran, is this a 1x2? I think it's a 1x2, there's 2 people.
Yeah, exactly.
And, so I move that we approve this.
I will happily second that.
Okay, motion, we have we have a second.
Yeah, my-
We do, Barbara.
Everybody clear? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Oh, that was done by roll call.
Roll call. Yeah.
Thank you, Scott.
And then I've got one more thing before we run away, if we're
Okay,
towards the end. So this bulk of this packet here
yes,
is what I could find for the explanation of the land survey money. Going back through the minutes, so I basically just gave the date of the minutes and then extracted the minutes going forward here. And then I also attached behind it, the contract. So the second page is the amendment. Basically, Jimmy Pedersen, who's doing, basically this was for a full topographical survey of all 7 cemeteries, which the Rob had discussed back in 2001 with the commission. But mainly summarized in that bottom section. And then the second, exhibit F, is the technical scope of work that they were asked to do and deliver to the town.
So it's all being done.
That's been done.
It's being done, but they just haven't given us the deliverables yet.
Okay.
And then at the and then before my Excel sheet on the last page of the contract is the breakdown of money. So that's where that, basically that $40,000 that has been spent towards land survey. This is what that is. That came out of the CPC funds. So out of those funds, about a year ago, what was expended was 2 different surveys by Jimmy Pedersen, which is a full topographical survey to basically entirely map out the cemeteries. And then we did the other one with Richard Grubb Associates, which was the broken
They
broken heads of the restoration.
So all of the cemeteries have been surveyed properly.
Yes.
Including
recorded?
Newtown.
I believe everything that was listed here
Scope of work.
in the scope of work, 7 cemeteries. So Founders, New North, Old North, Pulpus, Quaker, Newtown, and Historic.
So it doesn't include ways.
So, and that's all been done.
Yeah,
Right,
so the key one here is Newtown Cemetery,
Mhm.
because that's the one where there was some question as to that old road that went down through
Yeah.
it. And,
so that's all being cleared up.
But we haven't seen them.
Yeah, they've asked for more time to deliver it, which is why.
Okay,
So their original contract expired in August of this year. And that's what the second page is the amendment to that contract, where they basically asked to move the completion date from August 3rd to December of this year. So this actually kind of ties us into Pulpus as well, because we will have a topographical survey of Pulpus, which may or may not help us when it comes to anything with encroachment, because we'll have the actual bounds
That's
on
been
here.
deferred.
that's good,
Well,
Yeah, so as we were talking about survey stuff, I was
right,
hoping to get to this because they
Right.
are doing it. The only thing they didn't do here, and then Leah asked the question, and it's in the first set of notes, is whether or not it would be recordable.
that's what I just asked.
And I guess,
I think if they use the word topographic, it's not.
yeah. So basically what looks like what Robin said was that we get the properties topographically surveyed first, and then we can do a recordable later.
And is that another survey?
I'm not sure, we have to figure out.
That will be like the $40,000 one for the one.
Yeah,
I believe, yeah.
for every one of the cemeteries, including Newtown, we have located the corner blocks in the ground, So I've always gone on the assumption that even at Quay's Silent Burial Ground, there are corner blocks for the cemetery in the ground. So the idea of, surveying, I mean, it seems like we're doing this over and over and over again. The one that we were really concerned about was Newtown, because there was some question as to whether the 4 lots had ever been merged and, that sort of thing. And we still don't have an answer to that question
So
either.
Rob ordered that in July 21.
Hmm.
To get the topographical survey.
Okay, well, we'll continue to follow up on that and see what deliverables they can
Yeah.
deliver. And we'll see.
Yeah,
Thank you very much.
Yeah, Charlie.
Alan's point about the bounds, the survey markers at the corners. We don't really know who put them in, but I have been unable to find any kind of deed record where the town of Nantucket recorded a deed for its cemeteries. Fran, have you got any more insight than I have?
Well, in terms of the historic college cemetery, it was decided by the proprietors that they would permit an acre of land to be fenced for the purpose of burials, which already had taken place there. They established the bounds, but they didn't, in fact, deed the property to any person or entity whatsoever. So I think we sort of think that it remains a tiny little piece of the common and undivided land.
Mhm.
That would be the way I would describe it.
Yeah.
Which does belong to the town.
Which does belong to the town. In the case of the Quays Asylum Cemetery, we do know who placed the bounds and when it was done, but I'm not sure that would be recognized as an official.
No, it wasn't recorded.
No.
Um,
Well, anyway, we will have a recorded
Yeah,
surveyor.
topographical.
Right.
Charlie, thanks for all your
Yes,
work.
Yeah.
really.
Yeah, indeed.
are we
So,
going
so,
to adjourn?
Okay, anything else to come before the commission this afternoon? Seeing none, I declare we are at the end of our agenda. And the meeting is adjourned.
Fran, I'll be in touch, okay? In the next day. So
is
this
it
works
rain
for me.
tomorrow? Is tomorrow the rainy day?
Absolutely.